All right, everyone. So do you ever find yourself completely frustrated from all of the push to keep patient satisfaction scores at 100%? Or maybe you're feeling more overwhelmed and underappreciated since the big satisfaction push started taking place several years ago. If either of these apply to you, you are probably wondering why you should invest the time going through this presentation, because it's called Epic Patient Experience. But just stay with me for a minute and I'm going to show you why. One vision, one team. Because joy, guys, in the workplace, joy has nothing to do with work, and it has everything to do with purpose. When a team is aligned with the same vision, on purpose and with purpose, it is the perfect recipe for joy. So there are three areas instrumental to creating an epic patient experience. Number one, it starts with you. So yeah, it's exactly what I said. It starts with you. You matter. Life happens, stress happens. We work in a high pressure environment with a lot of moving pieces. So I'm going to give you some great tools to navigate through your shift. Number two is it's the little things, like a smile, a handshake, a touch on the shoulder. I'm going to show you simple gestures that you can add to what you're already doing that will amplify and elevate the patient experience. And then number three, master technique. So who cringes when you hear the word "ate it"? I'm going to simplify it and make it fun for you. And it's no longer going to be this task or a chore. It's going to be a fun game.
I keep this handy. It's a stress ball. Because sometimes when I get angry, I use the force and I pretty much devastate everything within a 100-meter radius. But if I squeeze this, it just really takes the edge off. You know what I mean? This is one of my favorite places in the hospital. It's where I come for all my supplies when I need casting gear, dark side accoutrements, different salves for my burns. Also, I come here to cry. I sometimes feel very marginalized. This is our break room. My human colleagues and nurses often throw a potluck here, and they're like, "Veda, what did you bring?" And I'm like, "I don't know, severed sarlacc tentacles? How's that?" And they're never very amused. "Oh, gosh, I hate my life." I've never really fit in. I've always been very dark side in the light side world. I wipe the eyes, and I get up, and I'm off. I'm back to work. So this is where I chart, and honestly, that's what I do all day. I see maybe one patient, and I spend 5 hours here. That's what I do. It's Galactic Epic. It's the newest DHR. They just updated it over the weekend, which means all my templates, my entire workflow, it means nothing because I'm going to have to learn it new again when I have 40 patients waiting. This is another place where I come to cry. Okay, what are your allergies now? Tell me. Oh, is that right? You think you want more eye contact? Well, how about this? I don't get paid to make eye contact, son. I get paid to click the boxes. Dark side for life. That's how I roll. That's my business these days. It ain't easy being Veda. I'm just saying. This is another place where I come to cry.
If you resonated with these videos on any level, then you probably should continue the conversation and the presentation. But really on a serious note, we've all been there. couldn't wait to clock out and get home, had those tearful meltdown moments either before a shift in your car, during a shift, or after a shift. It happens. And as healthcare workers, we tend to fall into that caretaker syndrome. We are notorious for not only going through our entire shift without going to the bathroom, skipping lunches, working with the skeleton crew, and therefore like taking on more than we physically and emotionally can handle. And oftentimes the step one thing that we can do is shift and manage our state, because we don't have any control about the outside circumstances. We don't have any control over the skeleton crew or how many patients are coming in, but we can control what's going on in our mind and in our heart. So that's step number one: shift and manage your state, and become aware that we are not taking care of ourselves. Like if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of the patients effectively, the way that they deserve to be, the reason that we became nurses and healthcare providers in the first place, right? Like what do they say when you get on an airplane? They say, in the event of an emergency, give yourself oxygen first. And so that's the shift that we're gonna work on right here, is making sure you understand that taking care of you is actually going to benefit your patients better. But that's gonna take you setting up step number two, healthy boundaries. See, we advocate for patients all the time, and it's also important that we're advocating for ourselves. So think about it. Are you advocating for yourself to get a break or a lunch break? Are you advocating for yourself to step away when you mentally need to recheck yourself? Are you advocating for yourself when you are just overloaded with patients or a lot of like acuity levels going on? You are the only one who can advocate for yourself. So that's step number two. Step number three is to be an ambassador for a positive environment. And I'm not saying be an ambassador for a positive environment, like be chipper you all day long. But what I am saying is to set up some really healthy boundaries and guidelines for the workspace. So that's gonna look like maybe setting up a space of a no complaint zone, no blaming zone, and no gossiping zone. Those three things, implementing that will be game changer on your work environment. And it's going to be you being the ambassador, because even if you're not partaking in it, if you're around it and you're not taking a stand for it to stop, then you're contributing, right? So if it happens around you, shut it down. If you're the one doing it, shut it down. Our energies, they're so contagious. So if you have positive energy, it's contagious. Guess what? If you have bad, low energy and you're miserable, it's also contagious. So be that ambassador for change. And then I want you to stop what you're doing really quick. And I want you to take a couple minutes, and I want you to discuss what I mean by changing your state with your team members. Giving some examples really. So what I mean by it is state is really defined as a particular condition that someone is in a specific time. How long does it take to change your state, guys? It takes a moment. We don't have bad days, we have bad moments. So being in the same space for 12 hours means that we have to be in complete control over changing that, being aware of when we're in a funk or we're stressed out, and knowing what options are available for us to change that state in a moment. So emotion is changed by motion. So here's an example. One of the most simple things you can do to change your state is to get moving. You can shake it out, which literally means like turn on Taylor Swift in the bathroom if you have to. Isn't that the ongoing joke amongst healthcare providers? Like the only break we have is when we go to the bathroom, if we go to the bathroom. But literally just shake it out, change up that energy. Maybe go outside, take some breathers and some fresh air for a couple minutes. Look up a funny YouTube video and laugh. Change your state. And it just takes a moment. So I want you to turn to your team member. I want you to talk to them. And what are some ways that you can shift or change your state? I'll give you a couple minutes. Just push pause. All right, now that you've come up with a couple different ways to change your state and really be aware of how you show up, let's talk about the little things, because it really is the little things. Here, watch this video.
Bee kisses. Mind if I sit down? Hello, my friend. Hello. Oh, look out!
What is going on here?
All right, so I'm in no way expecting that you guys dress up like clowns and just start entertaining your patients. But what I wanted to use that video for is as a tool to open up a conversation and just really turn and discuss with your team some things, questions that could come up for you while you're watching it. So think about, what are some of the most memorable customer service experiences that you've ever had? What made them so unique compared to every other time? The last time you were at a restaurant, maybe you went into a store. You know, those are those memorable moments. Think about what was different about those moments. Did they call you by your name each time that they came up to you? Did they show you compassion for your situation? Did they think of your needs and desires before you even felt the need to ask? Did they think of the tiny details that were not even necessary, but for sure welcomed? So talk to your team, push pause. What comes up for you here? Awesome. Well, I hope a lot came up for you. I always think about, when I think about my most epic customer service experiences, I think of my first time in Airbnb, and this woman did a spectacular job, and she just kept thinking, how can I do better? How can I bring more? How can I add value? And it was in the details and in the moments and in the experience of how she treated me and really just went above and beyond to take care of me, that's why I enjoyed the experience and had such a 5-star and above rating for her. And I think of that with our healthcare area too. I mean, how can we do better? How can we always be thinking of, what do they need next? What can we do to make this better stay, right? Understanding that they're coming from a space of maybe fear, anxiety, or sometimes even trauma. All right. So hope you saw that video fine. If not, I'll have the link in the slides, but hold on a second. Go back over to that. There we go. So hopefully you saw that video, okay? And good Lord, where is it? There we go. Really, just we can't see the trees in the forest, right? It's helpful to take a step back and just to imagine walking a mile in somebody else's shoes. And the fact is, we don't know what the source of somebody's pain or anxiety or anger, where it's coming from. And that goes from the patients and even to our coworkers. So I'm going to just challenge you to get into a practice of operating from a space of intentional compassion. So the other day I was at the airport and I was at a restaurant working, and I overheard a waitress complaining, like she was really frustrated. She had had a bad day. I kept hearing her say things like, "This always happens. That's why I hate working here." Like she was coming from a really bad space. And I know in the healthcare field, we can definitely relate because sometimes we feel like we're waiters or waitresses, right? She was an older woman, mid-60s, and she was visibly upset. Basically, she came over to me when I sat there, didn't make eye contact, just set the menu down in front of me and said, "Let me know when you're ready to order." Like, just like that. And I stopped and I looked at her and I said, "What was your name?" And I just made eye contact with her, and it shook her because she was so consumed by the situation that was going on and her frustration and everything like that, that I took a moment to actually make eye contact and connect with her. And she stopped and she just became present in the moment. It was like a complete shift. For the rest of the time, she actually spent time talking to me, interacting with me, checking on me, and making sure everything was good. And so I'm bringing up this story because just like being a waiter or a waitress, we are oftentimes very much in a very similar situation. And it's very simple for us to get so caught up in the stuff that we don't get present with our patients and understand that their situation is very different than the person in the room next to them or anything else that happened. And so it's recognizing it and having that shift and having that compassion and being understanding and walking a mile in their shoes, right? So how can we bring that to our space with our patients? It's a fine line. Talk to your team, push pause, talk to your team, and come up with some scenarios that you've dealt with or you deal with stressed out patients. Maybe they're confrontational, standoffish, and how would you normally respond? What would you do different? Push pause and answer this question with your team real quick. Great. Welcome back. So Fred Lee says that a hospital without compassion that meets the needs of those, a hospital without compassion that meets the, needs of those in pain would be like taking a trip to Disney that has no fun. And I just think that's so powerful because it's not about doing all the skills and the checklist. It's about the experience that we create. So take a minute, watch Fred speak.
No compliments and no complaints. They each give a subject. They all are randomized. So this double-blind study, they ask the subject after each shot, the different subjects and the different nurses. They would get a pain rating by saying on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did that hurt? After they take away the double-blind, they suddenly discover that your best nurses have lower pain ratings than your average nurses. And you say, well, how can that be? There it is on the videotape. The best nurses tend to say, this might sting a little bit, Mr. Lee, but I'll be as gentle as I can. What does the word gentle do to a person's anxiety? A little bit of fear. If I can say this for a blood draw, how much more important would this be for every other procedure that we do? But it are the passionate, compassionate, caring people that do this because it has to be done from the heart. You can't fake it. These authors say that experiences occur whenever an individual has been engaged in a personal or memorable way. The difference between these two Sherrys is that one engaged me in a personal, memorable way, and when she got up and said, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" I will say, "Not right now, but if I have to have my blood drawn tomorrow, will you please be the one who comes back? Don't be sending rough Rudy up here. I want gentle Sherry again." And Deming says that difference between being perfectly satisfied and wanting the person back again cannot be measured, scripted, reduced variation, or standardized. It comes only from the heart. It can be physical, emotional. Hans Strelja pointed out that compassion can actually affect the immune system if you believe compassion can reduce stress in a patient. Mother Teresa said, we can do no great thing. We can only do great small things with great love. Thank you very much.
All right, so we all cringe when we hear the word AIDIT. And just like Fred said in the video, it's not about learning and practicing the steps. It's about us truly meaning the steps. And I've simplified and translated AIDIT into real people talk to help you more effectively implement it into your day-to-day conversation and interactions with patients. So the rule of communication is only 7% verbal and 93% nonverbal. The nonverbal component was made up of body language, 55% body language and 38% tone and voice. So let's run through this and translate AIDIT into more like real people talk. A, acknowledge. Translated, you and your concerns are important to me. So just take a moment, push pause, and discuss with your team what are those different nonverbal ways that you can show your concern. A smile, a hand on the shoulder, eye contact. How do you show concern before you even open your mouth? Press pause and share with your team. Great. Now I, introduction. So translated, how awesome does it feel when someone gives you a great introduction? Like, let's be real. It feels amazing, right? So you're just like, you hear somebody edifying you and you think, wow, thanks, that was me? Or how does it feel when someone else is introduced to you? When the edification is a game changer, right? So check out the difference. Hey, this is Sarah, she's gonna be your nurse today. Or this is Sarah, your nurse today. She is known for giving above and beyond to her patients. You are gonna love her. You have to set an expectation, if you will, right? So when you are edifying your coworker, when you're edifying yourself, you're setting an expectation of what they can expect of you for the rest of the visit. So do you want them to expect, like, make up their mind of what they're going to expect of you? Or do you want them to be like, dude, this person is awesome. I'm so excited that they are the ones working with me. So you can do it for yourself, right? Talk yourself up, toot your own horn. You know what makes you awesome. Just let the patient know too, right? And then I want you to take 3 minutes. So you're going to push pause again, take 3 minutes practicing edifying your team. So 3 minutes each person. What do you do? What do you know for them? Or what do you know them for? Sorry. So what are they awesome at? What do you love about them? What do you love about working with them? Like, be authentic and true to yourself and to who they are, but just practice edifying each other and introducing each other. They may not even realize how awesome you think they are. So have fun with this activity. Push pause real quick. Awesome. Now D. D is for duration, and translated, this means, what does duration mean to you, right? Like, it means most people are reasonable. It's the time period, and it boils down to being just a more effective communicator. That's how I would translate duration. Just the effectiveness of your communication for the constant flow of communication on how things are going through the visit. So you're setting up communication expectations. You're clearly outlining the visit. You're updating them frequently, and for the most part, reasonable people are going to be receptive, right? So here's the challenge that I have for you. Are you ready? I want you, when you're patient free, to take 5 minutes, and I want you to leave your phone at the desk, turn off the television in the room. I want you to close the door and sit in the patient chair. And I want your other coworker to be timing you. And I want you to sit there for 5 minutes. It's going to feel like an eternity. But then I want you to start thinking. Be intentional, right? Think about while you're in those 4 walls, staring at nothing and having zero communication, what would make this experience more comfortable? What would make this experience better? What came up for you during that time, right? I want you to think about that. And then when you're done, discuss it with your team. Push pause. Welcome back. I hope that was a great experience and you got a lot of juice out of your team on what you could do better. All right, so explain, E. Translated, it just means narrate your actions. I mean, imagine, act as if you're in a play and you are the one narrating all the actions, like every single one, and just have fun with this. When you have fun with something, it just makes it better. It's not a chore anymore. So how can you make it fun? How can you make it clear? So I'm going to give you a story of how I narrate my activities. I love starting IVs on kids. I rarely have an issue. I don't usually have to have anybody else come in with me, but it's because of my effective communication. And so what I do is I go in, I bring all my material out, and I get down on the kids level and I just say, listen, I've got to get some blood from you. It's not going to be an exciting adventure, but I've got a couple jobs I need you to help me with. And I'm going to walk you through everything before I do it. And I promise you, I will not do anything without telling you first. And what I need from you is I need you to do 2 things. Number 1, I need you to keep your arm still for me. It's really important you don't move it. And number 2 is going to be that I need you to look at your mom or your dad and squeeze their hand. And so I'm narrating, right? I'm talking through this. So then as I get everything out, I have the IV kit set out. I pull out, the smallest catheter that we have. And I say, listen, this is the needle and not all of it's going to go in your arm. This the tiny little end is just until I get into your vein. And it's going to hurt a little bit. It's going to be like a pinch. But after that, the needle goes into this little plastic tube, and all that's left, it's this little plastic tube at the end. And then I bring it out to them. I say, why don't you feel that? Does that hurt? Is that smooth and soft and move around? They're like, yeah. So I put it up. I'm like, okay, so now is where we start. I'm going to put that super tight rubber band around your arm. And then I'm going to have you put your arm out. Now, what were your 2 jobs again? And I have them tell me. Okay. And then what I have them do is I say, okay, I'm going to clean you up with soap. Do you take baths at home? Like I'm just having a conversation. I'm walking through it with them. And at the very end, when we're all said and done, and I've walked them through every single step, typically they've cried. I give them permission to cry, but they don't move. I don't have any issues and it's done. And then I move their arm around and say, see, you could still move your arm. And this is just going to make it so I don't have to stick you again. Cause that's what I don't want to do. And that's how the explanation is effective. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to role play with your team. You're going to push pause. You're going to practice narrating a visit. So pick whatever part of the visit you want to practice on and practice being an active listener, practice clarifying questions, practice explaining things in a very direct and simple language so that they can understand, and just really work them through this. So push pause and do this for a few minutes each. All right, welcome back. And the very last part of AIDED is the T, thank you. And translated, really, it's just an absolute pleasure for us to be able to serve them, right? I mean, like really when it boils down to it, guys, without patients, regardless of what they're coming in for, or if they're abusing the system or whatever, if they weren't here, we wouldn't have a job. So, it's just that gratitude because it is our pleasure. And we're here for 12 hours. So that mindset, we can choose. Is it going to be a miserable 12 hours? Or is it going to be a spectacular 12 hours? It's a choice. I love to use fun words instead of just saying you're welcome or thank you. I love to do things like, think about those great customer service experiences when there were words that just were delicious, right? Like when you go to Chick-fil-A and they're like, it's our pleasure. Like that feels good when they say that, our pleasure. And so practice that today. When you give a blanket or you bring something and somebody says thank you, be like, my pleasure, and see how that feels. It feels better, right? And then I'm going to leave you with one last really quick tip. So as far as discharge instructions, this is another way that I like to close everything up in a tiny little bow and give very clear, specific instructions. Like as a nurse, we educate, right? So half the battle is education, and maybe only 1% of the patients actually take away and utilize what we say. But for the most part, we're getting through to them at some point, right? So typically when I'm discharging, I practice really clear instructions. I slow down and get very direct on my conversation. So in the ER setting, a big battle that we fight is people not using a primary care doctor for visits that they need to use a primary care doctor for. And so what I do is I'll remind them of what the emergency room setting, what our use, or not our use, what is the word I'm looking for? What our objective is, what our role is, and that our role is to make sure they're not having an emergency, and if they are, send them to a hospital, and if not, give them to a primary doctor. And so I'll ask them, do you have a primary doctor? And a lot of times the answer is no. And so I say, okay, great, do you have insurance? Because I know that if I don't ask them if they have insurance, they say they don't have a primary doctor and they don't have insurance, I never ask that question, they're probably never going to do anything. And I want to know that I'm going to empower them with options. So most of the time it's no, they don't have insurance. Say, okay, no problem. So here's your job. Your job is going to be to start tapping into resources today. And I tell them some loopholes. I'm like, look, if you can come up with the cash for your first visit as a new patient, then you can be a private pay patient at a practice. So your job while you're filling your prescription is to call 5 doctors in the area and pick one of them and schedule a new patient appointment. Now the appointment's not probably going to happen for about a month because that's just how long it takes. But I want you to keep that appointment because I want you to get established with a primary doctor. And then I reiterate that they deserve that kind of care. That in our setting, we're really not able to look at the full picture long term. And that is the role of a primary doctor. He's going to notice things that are coming up more frequently and look at the patient as a whole patient and really give them that quality continuance of care that they deserve. So I put it back for them to really receive that's for them. Anyway, so that's kind of just a quick tip of how I go through my discharge instructions, and I dive in obviously further, but for time, and you guys have been on this and time is valuable, we're not going to dive into all that. So really just in closing, guys, life is too short to take things so seriously. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to empower yourself on creating a more epic patient experience. And just remember that you have the power to cause a ripple effect in somebody else's life on every single encounter. So how will you choose to use that? Have an incredible day. Enjoy this last video.
HCAP scores. I hate them with a passion. Here's the thing. This isn't a hotel. It's a battle station. We don't have time for turkey sandwiches. If you're not happy, go to the other battle station. I don't have time. Did you die? I'm going to ask you now. Did you die? If the answer is no, the patient satisfaction score should be 100%. Did you die? No?
No, I have not died yet.
Well then, why are we still having the conversation about HCAP scores? It is very simple. Ever since the imperial government decided to pay us based on HCAP scores, everything has gone to the dark side. Did you die?
All right, guys, you have a great, epic day.